In 2019, a tragedy unfolded on the shores of a Florida beach, sparking a series of events that would expose a horrifying crime. What started as a missing persons case would soon turn into something far more sinister. A young mother, seemingly having disappeared into thin air, was found washed up on a beach near a naval base, and the discovery sent shockwaves through the local community and beyond. This is the chilling story of Jessica Carter, a woman whose life was tragically cut short under mysterious circumstances, and the shocking events that led up to that fateful moment. Welcome to CrimeSpot, where we dive deep into real-life criminal cases and uncover the stories behind the headlines. Today's story will make you question everything you know about domestic violence, betrayal, and the unthinkable lengths some people will go to in the name of control. The discovery. It was an average morning in Pensacola, Florida. The sun was rising over the Gulf Coast, and the beach was already beginning to fill with early risers, joggers, and fishermen. The usual calm atmosphere, however, was broken when a local jogger made an unexpected discovery just beyond the shoreline near the Naval Air Station, Pensacola. As the jogger ran along the beach, they noticed a body, partially submerged in the shallow water. They thought it might be a piece of debris or a dead animal washed ashore, but as they got closer, their stomach turned. It wasn't a lifeless object, but a human body. The body of a woman, lying face down in the sand, the water gently lapping against her. The jogger immediately called emergency services.
Sure, 911, what's your emergency?
What's the Navy Point?
Okay, what's the Navy Point?
We think we found a dead body. It's in a bag, a big old like a big old bag you carry on a plane. It looks like it has blood over it. Has a big old lock upon it. It's off the beach. It's real heavy.
And soon, the beach was swarming with police officers and paramedics. The body was quickly identified as 25-year-old Jessica Carter, a young mother who had been reported missing just days before. Her family had been desperately searching for her, but little did they know, their worst fears were about to be confirmed. Jessica was found, but her life had been brutally taken from her. A tragic background. Jessica Carter was a woman with dreams. Born and raised in a small town in Florida, Jessica had always envisioned a better life for herself and her young son. At just 25 years old, she had already gone through more than most people would in a lifetime. She had been through an abusive relationship with her former partner, Derek Mitchell, and had recently broken free from his grasp, seeking to rebuild her life. Her friends described Jessica as a loving, devoted mother to her young son, always working hard to provide for him. She had recently started a new job at a local diner, and things were beginning to look up for her. But the scars from her past weren't easy to erase. Derek Mitchell, her abusive ex, was never truly out of the picture. Despite their breakup, he continued to torment her, using threats and intimidation to maintain control over her life. Jessica had tried to get away, filing for a restraining order and moving into a new apartment, but Derek's presence loomed large in her life. He wasn't willing to let her go, and the darkness of their relationship was far from over. The timeline of events. The investigation into Jessica's death began almost immediately after her body was discovered. Initially, investigators believed it might have been a tragic accident, perhaps a drowning or a suicide. But as the evidence started to unfold, it became clear that there was much more to Jessica's death than met the eye. Jessica's car had been found parked near the beach, and her phone, which she had been using to stay in touch with friends and family, had been turned off for hours. But the real breakthrough came when surveillance footage from a nearby gas station was reviewed. The footage showed Jessica leaving the station late at night, and in the background, a man could be seen following her, Derek Mitchell. The video was chilling. Derek Mitchell had been in the area the night Jessica disappeared. He had been following her, possibly waiting for an opportunity to confront her, and it didn't take long for investigators to put the pieces together. Jessica's body was found just a few hundred yards from the place she had been last seen alive. The authorities were able to establish a timeline of events. Jessica had left the gas station alone and had been followed by Derek. Witnesses later reported seeing the two of them arguing on the beach. The confrontation quickly escalated into violence. The coroner's report. The coroner's report provided crucial information about Jessica's cause of death. While the initial assumption was that she had drowned, the autopsy revealed something far more sinister. Jessica had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, a fatal blow that likely knocked her unconscious. The report also noted defensive wounds on her arms, indicating that she had fought back in an attempt to escape her attacker. The investigators now had a clearer picture of what had happened that night. Derek Mitchell had brutally attacked Jessica, knocking her unconscious, and then dragged her body into the water in an attempt to make her death look like an accidental drowning. However, the body didn't get swept out to sea as Derek had hoped. It was carried back to shore by the tide, where it was discovered by the jogger. It was now undeniable. This was not an accidental death. This was murder. The investigation unfolds. As the investigation deepened, it became clear that Derek Mitchell had been stalking Jessica in the days leading up to her death. Friends and family revealed that Jessica had been receiving disturbing phone calls and messages from Derek, threatening her and accusing her of trying to take their son away from him. These calls had made Jessica fearful, but she had continued to push forward, determined to make a better life for herself. Despite Jessica's efforts to move on, Derek was always lurking in the background, controlling her every move. It was as if he couldn't let her go, and that possessiveness eventually turned deadly. When he realized he couldn't control her anymore, he resorted to violence. The death of Jessica Carter was not just an isolated act of rage, it was the tragic culmination of years of emotional and physical abuse. Derek Mitchell's arrest. It wasn't long before Derek Mitchell was arrested. During his interrogation, he initially denied any involvement in Jessica's death. He claimed that they had argued on the beach, but he insisted that he had nothing to do with her murder. He tried to maintain that they had been in a heated discussion, but that it had never turned physical. However, when confronted with the mounting evidence, the surveillance footage, the phone records, and the coroner's findings, Derek's story began to crumble. Investigators found that Derek had been the last person to see Jessica alive, and the physical evidence was damning. His attempts to fabricate an alibi fell apart, and he was eventually charged with first-degree murder. The trial. The case quickly became one of the most high-profile trials in the area. The media frenzy around Jessica's death was intense, with every detail of the investigation and trial being scrutinized. The prosecution built a compelling case against Derek Mitchell, painting him as a man obsessed with controlling his ex-partner, willing to do anything to keep her under his thumb. Jessica's family and friends testified about the emotional abuse she had endured, sharing heartbreaking stories of how Derek had terrorized her throughout their relationship. They spoke about Jessica's determination to break free from his grip, and how she had tried to protect herself and her son. Derek Mitchell's defense team argued that there had been no premeditation involved in Jessica's death, claiming it was a crime of passion. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the jury saw through the lies. After several weeks of testimony, Derek Mitchell was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The impact. Jessica Carter's tragic death is a stark reminder of the dangers of domestic abuse. Despite her efforts to escape, her past followed her to the end, and she was ultimately silenced by the man who had promised to love her. Her death left an indelible mark on the community, and it sparked important conversations about the need to address domestic violence and provide better support for those who were trapped in abusive relationships. In the wake of Jessica's death, her family launched a campaign to raise awareness about the signs of domestic abuse and the importance of supporting victims before it's too late. They worked tirelessly to create a foundation in her name, hoping to honor her memory by helping other women escape the cycle of violence that had ultimately claimed her life. Thank you for watching this video on CrimeSpot. If you found this case as tragic and disturbing as we did, leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more real-life crime stories. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, the truth is always out there, waiting to be uncovered.